So, you want to be more productive? Great, you're in the right place. Here at Fiona Lynn HQ, we're all about helping you get it all together so that you can go out and live the life that you want to live, as opposed to life happening to you. Every week, I'm here sharing advice and tips to help you play to your strengths. Because ultimately, I want you to get into action so that you can make your dreams a reality. And without further ado, let's get into these 5 changes that you can make right now that you can implement in your life to be more productive. Number 1, know your why and commit to it. It's not really enough, is it, to just say that we want to be more productive. There's always a reason why, and I really want you to think about what your reason is. Perhaps there's something in your life that you would like to do, but you haven't really made it a priority, and that's why you're looking to be more productive, because you want to have more time to put towards this thing. Perhaps it's starting a business, perhaps it's writing a book or something like that, perhaps it's a work project. Maybe you're even looking at starting your own YouTube channel, and you know that that takes time and there's going to be a huge amount of learning involved. And so it's something that you need to set time aside to. Whatever it is, what is that one thing that is going to be your clear focus and the reason why you want to become more productive? Because at the end of the day, changing habits is hard. There's a lot of time and attention and focus that needs to go onto them. Without that motivation and that drive behind you to make it happen, it's going to be that much harder. Becoming more productive is, in a sense, a project in itself. And that's why I want you to think about number 2, overhaul your morning and evening routines. This is where productivity really starts, because we all know that there are things that we can do to set ourselves up for success at the start of the day. For me, setting aside a couple of hours at the start of the day, which are just purely for me, where I can sit in silence and have that much slower start to the day, are really important. But maybe it's different for you. Maybe you are more of a nighttime person and you know that actually there are some things that are taking up your time in the evening that you need to rededicate that time to something else, to this thing that you really want to focus on. So your time of day may not be the first couple of hours, or it may be. Play to your strengths. A few years back, I decided that I really needed to be more productive, and my reason why was because I was managing a lot of projects all at the same time, and I felt chaotic. I just didn't feel that I had enough time for me, enough space for me in my day. So that was my reason why. So one of the things that I did was I started looking at some of the things that I could do to simplify my life. Where could I manage my time better, and how could I just give myself a bit of extra space in my day? It was things like getting organised at home, things like packing my bag for the morning the day before. I don't know about you, but I absolutely love watching other people's morning routines and evening routines on YouTube. I love getting ideas for ways I can spend my time, but also I think it's just about making sure that we don't get bored of our own routines as well. Could you switch it up a bit? Could you make it a bit more fun? Could you give yourself that extra bit of breathing space? Number 3, block off time in your calendar daily. This is so important because this is the difference between you running your diary and your diary running you. So what I like to do is I like to sit down on a Sunday evening and look at my week ahead. There are always some things in there, some meetings and things that need to get done, and they're going to be at fixed times. And yeah, sometimes they can be moved, but generally speaking, these are things that have been booked ahead of time. So what I like to do is get out my calendar and look at the space around those commitments. Now, because I have that time in the morning, which is pretty much sacrosanct, I will very rarely have a meeting before 8:30. And what I'll try and do, if I can, is I'll group things together. So if I'm working with a specific client and I know that there'll be prep work or follow-up work to do, I try and book that time as a slot on my calendar. I think you can start to feel quite chaotic if you're jumping around from one thing to another during the day, so I really try and just focus on these blocks of time. But the other thing about that is it gives you space in your diary where you do have 3 or 4 hours where you can work on one thing, and that is really important. Whatever it is, a new project needs momentum, and you're only going to get momentum when you do spend a chunk of time on something. The other good thing about doing things in blocks, particularly when they're similar tasks, is that you only have to set up your surroundings once. So this is particularly important for me on a day that I'm filming, because of course I have to set up the lights and the audio and the desk and the background and everything like that when I'm filming. So if I can batch record a few videos at the same time, it means that I'm spending far less time during the week by having to repeat that setup process all the time. So again, just think about how you could be much more efficient with your time. And finally, the one thing that's going to give you real peace of mind when it comes to blocking out your time in your calendar, it's making time for the things that you don't want to do. Now, I know that doesn't sound like fun, but let's face it, if these things don't get done, they're going to be a problem. So having a slot on your calendar, even if it is a short one, just to really focus on getting those things out of the way, I think that's really important. And it goes hand in hand with the next principle that I'm going to share, which is number 4. When you're working, work. I know, it sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But the point is we don't. We get distracted. We have notifications coming in all the time. We have other things that maybe our brain is drifting towards. It's anything but what we really need to get done. So just making that decision. When I'm working, I'm really going to work, and I'm going to put my all into it, and I'm going to do it wholeheartedly, whether I want to do it or not, because that is a commitment I've made to myself. That is probably the most important thing in this video. We all know that it's much easier to work on things that we enjoy, but for days when we're not feeling it, or for days when we really just need to get something done, then there are all kinds of things we can use to help us. One of the things that I've been trying out recently is an app called Focus Keeper, which is based on the Pomodoro technique, where you spend 25 minutes really focused on one task, and then 5 minutes having a break, literally looking up from the computer screen, that thing that we're always told about and none of us do. And I'm finding it personally a brilliant way of just staying focused on a task, particularly a writing task or something like that. But it equally works if you've got a tick list of things that just need to get done and you want to rifle through them at a fast pace. But this, of course, assumes that you've already set aside the time and that you aren't going to have distractions. So what can you do to limit the distractions that you have, particularly people around you? Because that's definitely more challenging. This is where you need to be really strong. There's a reason why you've committed to being more productive. There's something that you really want to get done. It's important and meaningful to you, and you need to let the people around you know that it is important, and to understand why you're making some of these changes that you're making, and get them on board if you can. Now, I know that's not always possible, but sometimes just something as simple as having a conversation, letting somebody know that you're trialing this, you're just going to see how it goes, but you really need their support. Most people like to help, and then sometimes it's not quite as easy. Maybe people have just got used to the fact that you always respond quickly to an email or to a phone call, that you're always available, and you're going to have to start changing those expectations, and that can be quite tricky. One of the things that I do if I know that I'm going to have a day where I really don't want to be interrupted and I need blocks of time that I can solidly concentrate on one thing. If I know that there are other things that are likely to come up through the day, or there are people that may want to speak to me, I'll typically contact them at the start of the day. I'll let them know when I am going to be available, and I'll schedule that time on my calendar. And this way, I'm directing my own time. Again, keep on reminding yourself why you're doing this. It may not be easy, but at the same time, it's going to be the difference between making something a reality and not. And finally, number 5, let go of perfection. No one is 100% on top form, really productive all of the time, which is why I think it's really important to be flexible as well. And that's another skill. You have to learn to manage your time as you would a project. And with projects, they're always being derailed. There are always things coming up that you didn't plan for, that you didn't envisage. The important thing is to get back on track and not beat yourself up about it. So there we have it, 5 changes that you can implement in your life to be more productive, so that you can get that thing done. And I'd really love to know what that is for you. So let me know in the comments, and I will see you next time.